Hey everyone, Rick here, VetTech81. Maybe wondering what we're looking at. Well, this is my 86 Yamaha YFM225 Moto4. It's a two-wheel drive ATV. Like I said, 1986. It's old. Original tires on it, Anyhow, it didn't look like this when I bought it, and didn't look like this until recently. But anyway, let me tell you a little story about it. So I bought it some years back from a family that had it sitting in their garage for a long time. They had so they originally were the ones that purchased it new. It was sitting facing with the front of it facing outside towards the outside of the garage door. So it was kind of funny. The front plastics were faded much worse than the back. And of course, it didn't run, so I had to get it home, put a battery in it, put some fuel in it. The petcock was kind of seized a bit, but got it to move. It wouldn't start on its own. Put a little starting fluid in there, it fired up. Changed the oil on it. Figured I had to rebuild the carb. Took the carb apart. Found that the inlet for the fuel was all basically plug solid. So I sonic cleaned it, rebuilt it, replaced the petcock on the fuel tank there. That was a while ago, of course. Got it running, and it would still be a little bit of a hard start after it sat for a while, especially when it was cold and everything. Sometimes I have to put a little starting fluid in it, get it warmed up, and whatnot. So anyway, why is it all torn apart now? Well, it had been sitting for a while. At the old house, I didn't have a place to really ride regularly, so it sat a lot in the backyard and outside, and the plastics got all faded and even more so, and just sunburned and whatnot. But now that I moved, I wanted to get it started, and I got it running, and changed the oil on it because, like I said, I've been sitting. And one of the things I need to do too is inside here the filter housing is a little bit melted. That happened one time when I was putting a little bit of gas on the air filter just to try to get it running in the yard, and caught it on fire, and got it put out pretty quick. It was no big deal, but it melted part of the air filter housing, and I got a replacement that just came from another used Moto4, and we'll be changing that out. But anyhow, I got it running, and of course, it didn't want to stay running without the choke on at all, and it may just be, well, partially because it's colder right now. It's in the middle of wintertime here in North Carolina, and so the air is pretty cold. But I ended up buying a Chinese carb for it. Figured, okay, I'll try one of these cheap Chinese carbs off of Amazon. I'll put a link below the description of the video. But I changed out, or I was going to change out the carb, but didn't get that far because I had it running and whatnot, and I also obviously had to put a new battery in it because it was sitting for a while. Fixed this battery box not real well. I mean, I welded it, but it was my cheap Harbor Freight welder that I used, and I'm not the greatest welder, but enough for doing like a project like this to kind of put it together. I took that box off, sandblasted it, took a little piece of it was like a sign, like a yard sign. Had a little, like, basically a steel rod, 90-degree piece that I cut out and welded to kind of support it, because you can kind of see this box was all rusted away. There's nothing really left of the side of it, at least. The rest of the material was okay. Still had a good amount of thickness left of the steel, but basically reinforced it and welded it together and painted it black to kind of help preserve it somewhat, and put that new battery in there. So had it running, and was getting ready to kind of pull it out of the garage, and I figured maybe I'll try this carb out, maybe I won't. We'll see how well it runs with the carb that's on it right now, whatever. And of course, it died at one point and wouldn't restart. And it seems like we have a spark issue. So I was like, okay, maybe the CDI box went bad. I saw it was pretty cheap, so I bought a new CDI box. I know the coil was the original coil that's been on here. In fact, the wiring was soldered onto the factory wiring, and heat shrinked on and whatnot, and you could tell it's been there. So I'm sure it's the original coil on this thing. And so I bought a new coil for it, and I was going to probably put that on too. So I decided, because it's underneath this fuel tank kind of and not in a real good spot, to go ahead and pull the tank off. We'll get the tank off, got to take the plastics off, at least the front plastic. I had the back plastic off because I was working on the CDI box, and I, for some reason, thought it was in the back, but it really wasn't. But I figured, you know what? So I started taking them off. I'm just going to take it off all the way. It's not a big deal. It's pretty simple, and I'm going to clean up the frame. A lot of this is mud that's on here. There's some rust around like the welds and stuff. So what I was planning on doing is just cleaning it up as best as I can without taking everything apart. Take a wire wheel or a wire brush to get all the loose junk off and clean it all off real good. Maybe use some Simple Green or some brake clean or both, and get it just real cleaned, and then maybe put some high temp black paint on it, because this isn't really a showpiece or anything like that. It's just my ATV that I've been playing with, and it's one of two that I got to get running again. And anyhow, that's kind of where we're at. So I gotta finish installing the coil on the other side there, and making sure we got good spark and everything, and make a repair to part of the harness that I noticed had a spot that had well, it basically had like a rub through spot on it, and it was kind of like looked like it might have been shorting, so I needed to replace that or repair that, and get that fixed. The other thing I had problems with, this I'm sure probably has never been off, the speedometer knob, the trip meter knob rather. You can see it's broken. I did that on purpose because it was not broken before I took the plastic off, but you can't get the trim shroud off of this without removing that knob. Now, there may be a screw inside here. I tried with like every different type of tool I had, and I'm guessing if there is one, the head of it is just damaged and messed up. I found some of the replacements on eBay pretty easily for about 12 bucks. But I gotta figure out how to get the rest of that stem off to replace it if I choose to replace it. It's not really the end of the world, not a big deal. Like I said, it's not perfect. I'm kind of thinking about, in fact, not only just cleaning up and kind of putting some paint on the frame again, but also doing a little bit of a change up with the plastics, because the plastics are rough, and unfortunately nobody makes replacement plastics for 86 Yamaha Moto4. They make them for a lot of the newer stuff, like my Raptor 660R that I've got to get running again. That's been sitting for a couple years beside of this one, if I can speak, alongside this one rather. And anyhow, so I've been kind of thinking about trying like a camo theme or something on the plastics, just for the hell of it, just changing it up. I don't know. Originally, what I wanted to do was do these wheels in black. I got another set of wheels too for this thing, and in fact, I had newer tires that are these lumberjack ones I bought off, I think, Amazon or eBay a long time ago. But you see they have tons and tons of tread on them, but they're dry rotted. I may be able to try to put tubes in them to hold air again. I'm not sure yet, but I would like to kind of take these wheels apart and pardon my messy garage, because we just moved in here and not everything's all situated yet. But I was going to say, put those wheels in that sandblaster and blast them and get all the loose crud off and paint them. I was thinking about doing them black again and maybe doing like a camo theme on the plastics. Now, painting the plastics, yeah, may or may not be the best idea, because, oh, by the way, there's the front plastic. You see where it's kind of brighter blue. I kind of scraped off some of the crud that's on there, because it's like the top layer of the plastics are just like burnt, like chalky, and just has like mildew or whatever you want to call it, or whatever into it. I thought about taking the rest of the little trim pieces off of it and maybe just going over it with my die grinder with an abrasive disc or something, just to knock all that stuff off there and just clean it up, and maybe do like a camo theme on it. I don't know, but let me know your thoughts on that. I mean, I know that painting plastics, the problem is that the paint may not stick very well to them, from what I've been told. But who knows? We did one a long time ago where my friend, who's a body guy, actually painted Polaris plastics for me. And that seemed to work pretty well. But he said, after a while, it's probably going to crack and flake off, and that may happen. But you know what? With this quad, I don't plan on selling this one at any point, at least. I'm figuring with the time and money I've spent on it, I would never get that back, and I might as well just enjoy it for what it is, an old quad, and just beat around with it. So I'm thinking maybe do a camo type theme on the plastics and paint the wheels black, just to kind of make it look a little different and whatnot. But again, this thing's like 34 years old, I think, right now, as of making this video. So it's kind of cool that this thing has been around that long, and I just thought it was kind of fascinating. I've only worked on a couple different quads, or ATVs. My Raptor 660 that I've done some stuff with, and I had a Polaris, and I helped my friend with one of his Hondas a little bit, but I didn't have a lot of experience with them. But I thought it was kind of neat for something this old, how they designed this. Of course, they figure you're going to be going through mud and water with it, so you know, like the vents for like the crankcase, this tube. It's kind of funny that it's still clear up here, but down there it's like, you know, black because it's been exposed to all the dirt and crud and everything for so long. But it's neat how the air comes in. For example, this actually that was a carburetor vent, I think. I forget where that one went off to. Let's see. Yeah, it goes across over here and goes over the carb rather. This one's a crankcase vent. But it's neat how they vented it all up here by the handlebars, because obviously that's going to be the highest point that you could really get to. But that this tube here comes all the way down and goes to the crankcase. I just think that's kind of cool. And there's one for the differential back here as well. You could probably see that tube down there that kind of works its way up, you know, over here and everything. And thought it was kind of neat how the air comes into the air intake. It's kind of dirty up here. I was kind of going to blow some air through it just to kind of get all the crud out. But, you know, it comes down through the frame, through this tube, underneath the gas tank, connects over here to that rubber hose assembly, into the air filter box, which normally has a lid on it, you know, through the air filter, and then into the carburetor. And down here, you got a drain, which is neat. So if you ever do get some water in, you know, they set that air filter up high enough that, you know, if you get some splashes of water in there, you could drain it out pretty easily. All you need is like a pair of pliers to take that little spring clamp off and get it out. And on top of that, originally when that was new, this piece right here was actually, I think, clear, so you could see the water in it. I think the Raptor 660R also has one of those drains. It's probably common on a lot of ATVs now, I imagine. But I think it's just kind of cool, some of the design on this thing. And the Raptor 660R also is pretty cool to see all the technology, how they designed that thing. Even though that particular one's carbureted as well, just the variable cam timing and all that kind of cool stuff. So anyway, this is my project. Maybe I'll take some more videos in the future of it, you know, not so close up, maybe once it's all back together, just to share it with you, because I know I haven't made very many videos on this channel recently, but we'll probably make some stuff coming up in the future. I may not do any like real big projects with a lot of editing and stuff, because I just don't have enough time between this channel and the other channels I have, which is like the Discoveries 81 channel and the Big Gunner 81 channel. Make sure you check those out and subscribe to those as well. And until next time, y'all have fun. And I don't really have a catch line, so we'll catch you guys later. Thanks.